Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children. Of all ages, my name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Arts Fine 4, New Order Last Days Your Pals, Guangdong. Now, in the last video, we managed to finish up our focus tree, and it sounds like we're trying to start Big Brother, or some shit like that. We also debuted our new rifles and got some major recognition for Matsushita in the corporate world. We got 6 seats total out of it. Some nice economic boost as well. So, with all that said and done, only thing we can do right now, well, there are a few things we can do. The first thing we're going to do, before I forget, we're going to explore the lore once more of this world. First, Chokai. Almost straddling the line between the two Guangs, the city of Zhaoqing has floated in and out of the limelight. The Sui dynasty saw it rise to military and political prominence. The Ming dynasty, further still, propelled it to the seat of Viceroy of Linguang itself. But the limelight could only favor this inland city for so long before Guangzhou, the coastal jewel, took it back. The fall of the Qing to revolution, the fall of China to Japan, all of it did little to reverse the course. As the Koshu of today sparkles and glitters of the future, the Chokai of today sulks in the past, now largely thought of as provisional and unimportant, when thought of at all. Well, that's a little sad. Yeah, there's barely any resources in it. So I'm not entirely surprised, but yeah, what are you gonna do? There goes Puerto Playa. Autosave. Well, this is relevant, so I'm actually going to read the news event for once. Following the release of information implicating Yasuda holding executives as ringleaders in a corruption scheme turned murder investigation, but Hang Zaibatsu appears to be in dire straits. Tokyo Stock Exchange opened earlier this morning. The floors were flooded with frantic shareholders, begging for their orders to be processed first, and frightened interns carrying bins of sell orders through the chaos. Already, Yasuda's holdings have entered freefall. The mass liquidation of assets held in the home islands, Guangdong, Vietnam, and China has created an economic power vacuum set to tear the Spear's economy apart. Experts predict that Zaibatsu is on life support. Unless Ino's cabinet can be mobilized to produce a miracle, total collapse of the corporation will be expected as soon as next week. What falls faster? A man or his shares? The men stood by the sill, calmly, and waited their turn to jump. Tokyo Exchange Secretary. Out with a crash. It's not going to bode well for us, I can already tell. And there it goes. Chief Executive Suzuki Taichi could barely wrest himself away from the radio, leaving a pile of paperwork growing unattended. The names began being read out: Ikeda, Fujiyama, Inukai. Anyone who was anyone in Tokyo politics was being accused. Prime Minister Ino would surely be implicated in ours. Suzuki's mind raced. There had to be a name he could make to salvage the situation. Even his contacts are named one by one by an emotionless newscaster. Frantically, he dialed Matsuzawa's office number and waited. Every second, his fears multiplied. Matsuzawa was speaking. Matsuzawa's voice could be barely heard above. Was it shouting? Screaming? Despondency? Suzuki, this is a bad time. What the hell's going on? Is it Minazaka? Yes. Between the bribes, the unclatterated exposure, the fraud, Yasuda will sink under the weight of it all. And I don't see anyone in Tokyo coming out to our rescue. Suzuki felt the world sway beneath his feet, forcing himself to steady himself. Yasuda was dying. Japan was in chaos. Overnight, everything had changed, and Guangdong would be swept away like a twig in a storm. I have to see to whatever's left of Yasuda, Matsuzawa said tersely. You should return to your work. Try not to look at the stock market. It had fallen by 20%, racing towards zero. So right now, we have 30 seats. Or Yasuda over here. Yasuda has 22 seats for now. Well, here we go. Suzuki is really going to start losing seats. It would seem. Well, we'll focus on what to do soon. The music stops for now, though. The unthinkable has occurred. Yasuda, one of the cornerstones of its Japanese economy, has been collapsed, and the Spear's economy has been plunged into utter chaos. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, we lost a lot of money. Orders are drying up, customers are hunkering down, and companies are racing to confirm whether or not they have enough cash to survive Yasuda's crash. And in Guangdong, Yasuda's position as one of the 4 companies means that the worst is surely in store, unless we take action now. Doing HoI for multiplayer lately was a good mod for that. I don't know, I don't play multiplayer. Kaiserreich might be fun for multiplayer, but from there, I don't know. Alright, let's reassure the markets. If we're scared, the investors that make up the bulk of investment in Guangdong are absolutely petrified. Since the fateful day when Yasuda's stock price collapsed in Tokyo, Guangdong's markets have been in freefall. The banks and investment houses in Hong Kong and Koshu are frozen in place. We need to get ahead of the news and reassure investors and companies they will have the situation under control shortly. Otherwise, rumors capital flight swirling through Guangdong could become reality, and that would surely be the kiss of death. Well, speaking of kissing and death, we'll retain control of Canada. How do you explain the loss of share prices over the past month, Chief Executive? Flash. The shouts questioned from the Canton Kaisai Shimbun reporter were accompanied by the brilliance of the magnesium flashbulb, blinding Suzuki as he faced down Guangdong's investors, reporters, and corporate executives in a repurposed hotel ballroom. Chief Executive, will Yasuda's local shareholders be repaid in full? We're still waiting for talks to conclude in Tokyo, Suzuki articulated, trying not to blink amidst a barrage of camera flashes. But I can assure you, the Guangdong Civil Authority will ensure adequate liquidity for regular market activities. Does that mean the government will commit to backing the financial system? The flashes reach fever pitch as reporters press his question, barely audible over the audience's clamor, even though the government's cash reserves are nearly depleted. Suzuki fought to keep his expression neutral, his own unease boiling over in his stomach. There was no good answer. He could be spent and damned by the corporates, or hoard back and be abandoned by the investors. We have sufficient reserves to back the currency and stabilize the markets. And as the government works to maintain stability, we ask your cooperation this trying time. The government halted stock trading later that day. We're holding control for the police in the 3 core areas. Everywhere else, not looking too hot. Can't lie. Let's revise the budget. The Revenue that Guangdong's government collects organically, that is, without reliance on custom levies or financial contributions from Tokyo, much of it comes from the taxes paid by companies operating in the territory. Tax rates are low to begin with in order to keep Guangdong favorably positioned by the rest of the sphere, but Japan's continued economic growth and the corresponding good performance of Guangdong companies mean that we came to expect fiscal stability. But if Yasuda's financial troubles and impending collapse are inevitable, as recent news suggests, then our budget will have to be revised. Urgently. Yeah. I believe so, yeah. Yeah. Oh, something happened. So you have the proxy conflict right here. And, yeah, our efforts to ensure that we had, we got our guns came at a price. Damned Americans. Suzuki had pulled out his dog-eared copy of the 1963 budget out on his desk and was running the numbers, stabbing at the paper repeatedly as he revised the revenue and expenditure projections with his fountain pen. He felt his hair standing on end as every calculation, every estimate pointed at a single terrifying conclusion. Guangdong was deeply in the red, draining its cash reserves just to stay afloat. The negative figure on the last page of the budget estimate stared angrily back at Suzuki, its vivid red demanding to be seen amongst all of the black elsewhere on the page. Suzuki could do little else but stare back, gobsmacked. How had it all come to this? It was a rhetorical question. Between Yasuda's collapse and Suzuki's own largesse in trying to pass the Labor Standards Ordinance, Suzuki knew full well that he shouldered a fair share of the blame for Guangdong's crisis. It was a question asked as Suzuki's mind grounded to a halt for the first time in years, fixated on asking why and refusing to accept the obvious conclusions. It also kept the next question conveniently at bay. What comes next? How would Suzuki even begin to right this ship of state before Guangdong's investors began to run for the hills, if they hadn't started to do so already? Floors falling out from underneath us. Well, let's demand answers from Tokyo. There's no shortage of answers we need from Tokyo in response to Yasuda's collapse. Why weren't we informed, given central position Yasuda occupies in Guangdong? What is the status of talks, if any, to manage Yasuda's existing obligations? Have Japanese authorities extended any guarantees to Yasuda's creditors? More importantly, will Guangdong's budget support for Guangdong continue? There's a lot going on. Very flustery. Very flustered. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't want to piss off the Chinese more than I have already. I'll do it a little here. Try to get some stuff going in Momai. And answers from Tokyo. And now we have a fiscal cliff. Our findings are bleak. The conclusion unavoidable. Funds from Tokyo drying up, our budget bleed eating red ink, investors running for the exits, face a financial apocalypse that makes it impossible to sustain our current levels of spending. Drastic action will be required. It had taken all evening to find anyone in the Ministry of Finance in Tokyo to take Suzuki's call, even as the urgent missives and demands for action in Guangdong piled up on Suzuki's desk. What do you mean you can't provide any details on the budget? You know damn well there's only one reason I'm calling. With all due respect, given current conditions and the present confusion, all discussions about the budget are currently on hold. Please wait until the cabinet... The only thing the cabinet's discussing right now is who gets sent to Sugamo prison first. The Prime Minister and I agree that the budget supporting for Guangdong will be renewed. Is that still in the books? Silence, followed by a crackle static. Chief Executive Suzuki. This is Director General Tanemura of the Budget Bureau. I'm afraid we cannot confirm to any new commit to any new spending unless the cabinet directs us to. Fine! Will continuing spending be authorized? Japan has its commitments to co-prosperity sphere. Surely measures are in place. I cannot commit to anything, Chief Executive. The senior bureaucrat's voice was frigid. Any further details will follow from Tokyo. That will be all. The line went dead. So, in other words, shit is fucked. The only thing that made a day of bad news tolerable was reading about the misfortune of someone else. Taiichi's eyes stopped on the front page of the Kanton Kaizai Shimbun, which had put aside its regular coverage of business beat in favor of politics. Prime Minister Ruan Zhenduo of Manchukuo had finally been put out of his misery after presiding over the fallout of both the Pan-Asian Economic Conference and the Yasuda crisis, replaced by Asian Gyor Yuyan, a cousin of Emperor Puyi. Despite his failings, Ruan had been allowed to retire with some dignity, and the state had chosen to burnish its pedigree with a royal sheen. The various factions surrounding the Manchurian throne, the Imperial Court, the Guangdong Army, and the bureaucrats of the Imperial General State Affairs Bureau had chosen Yuan as backers, the Concordia Association, to take Manchukuo forward. It was a golden coat of paint over a rusting frame, in Taiichi's view. Even if the new PM talked of changes and new beginnings, man was beholden to so many interests, opposed by just as many. There were conspicuously no mention of what exactly would change at all. Suzuki didn't envy Yuan. Life in Guangdong was similar, without imperial regalia, ideological tramplings, or court grandeur, even if its politics were no less cutthroat. Here, the profit motive was what mattered most. At the very least, we have control in the pearls. That is nice to see. Some Greece police control, so I think I'll move towards that. The Goshu skyline stretched out towards the midnight horizon, a constellation of glittering office lights and glowing neon, interrupted only by the black depth of the Pearl River, coursing throughout the heart of the city. In these hours, Chief Executive Suzuki's office was just one flickering light in a sea of thousands, adrift in the night. Privately, Suzuki was grateful. The darkness swallowed the sight of a newly destitute. The shuttering shops, and the accidents that threatened to swallow Guangdong whole. Guangdong's failings, his failings, were hidden from him during the merciful night, where he could escape the rage and recriminations that consumed his waking hours, even as a financial reckoning loomed. There were no good options left, Suzuki thought plaintively. Tokyo was silent. The Slave Council fumed one day and cried out for relief the next, for Suzuki had lined their pockets only a few months earlier. Chinese were too poor to tax, but Zujin were going to ground, and the Japanese were circling the wagons. Suzuki felt his teeth grinding together as he crushed the empty cigarette carton in his hand. Come down to the four companies, it always did, but now he would be helpless before them, stripped of any leverage by Yasuda's collapse. Tycoons were not known to be magnanimous, certainly not after being browbeaten by Suzuki himself for so long. But there was always self-interest, that guiding principle of capitalism. What was more contribution in the face of imminent anarchy? I am once again asking for your financial support. That is beautiful. I love that they described it as that. Let's summon the tycoons. We need to fill the gaping hole in our budget. The stark reality is that Guangdong has few sources of revenue aside from its corporations. The Chinese are too poor to tax, so Cantonese Japanese fill critical positions in our government and in small business, the Japanese expatriates have never opened their wallets willingly. Chief Executive Suzuki has come to the conclusion they must call upon the largest companies, those sitting in the Legislative Council, and the tycoons to do their part for the greater good. They'll have to agree their ability to continue operating Guangdong, for all Guangdong to exist at all, depends on it. Well, here we go. Suzuki felt the air around the tycoon's chill as he finished the proposal. Morita, Ibuka, and Matsushita. Matsuzawa was not present, to nobody's surprise. Exchanged glances, even as Suzuki stared at each of them in return. This is ridiculous, Ibuka said irritably, lifting himself out of his seat. Suzuki blinked. We're not done. Sit down! Enough! All the time you yell at us from up high to do this, do that. Now you want us to do you a favor? Without even the courtesy to offer to make it up to us. We're in a crisis, and you want to talk about courtesy? Do you think you can survive alone? It's better than following you. I will be blunt. I do not trust you. If you want my help, give me something worth my time. The door slammed shut. Matsushita fixed his tie with a serene expression, his tone insincere. My board will need some time to study this. I apologize, but for something this important, I cannot give you an answer immediately. Slam. Suzuki turned to Morita, who shrugged. If Ibuka and Matsushita are opposed, and if Matsuzawa was indisposed, I don't think my opinion will change anything. It's just good business to them, I'm sure. Business! This is politics. Suzuki's foul mood followed the disastrous meeting with the four companies had hardly dissipated by the following morning, leading him to glare venomously at an approaching aide as he trundled towards his office. What now? Suzuki nearly snarled, taking the offered copy of the Canton Kaizi Shimbun out of the hands. What the four companies want. The aide recoiled at the chief executive's prickly demeanor before composing themselves and pointing to the newspaper. They want your head, chief executive. What do you mean, they... Suzuki opened the front page of the broadsheet and promptly fell silent. Chief Executive's days numbered. Legislative Council to petition Tokyo for emergency recall, citing no confidence. Suzuki didn't read much past the first few lines before he crumpled the newspaper in the fury, hurling it at the wall as his aide darted out of the room. And this isn't politics. This is war. This will introduce the confidence motion in Chief Executive Suzuki to the Legislative Council. The owners will start with following support. Sony support, 0 out of 10. Matsushita, 3 out of 23. Fujitsu, 2 out of 15. Yasuda, 2 out of 22. And all of our guys. So 37 out of 100 support the ordinance on introduction. So passing this will allow us to be able to keep ruling Yasuda. Or keep following the Yasuda crisis and keep leading it. Oh boy. So. Oh! Well, we gotta increase patrols. The streets and the halls of the government are two sides of the same coin, they say. One side plunges into hellfire, and the other is bound to follow. Discontent from all sections of civilian society is boiling over, right as we're busy handling the chaos ravaging our legislative council, and this cannot be allowed to stand. To this end, we shall intensify deployment of our dutiful officers to the streets, even by tie if necessary. Keep a watchful eye on any sign of civil unrest. There will be no room left for the cries of the Chinese or the protests of undeployment of the Zujin, or even the concerned chatters of the Japanese. For the sake of Guangdong's stability and future, no measure is too extreme. So we're going to get extra police control, which is going to be nice. Nothing else about it's going to be nice, so I can already, from what I could tell. Go ahead and raid the Yakuza here. Yeah. We'll stop the presses. We've reached the worst case scenario. Tycoons have turned against us. They walked out of the meeting. The fallout will be immense. Even so, there's still means by which we can manage how much damage this causes. The first and most important, stopping the presses. If the world gets out that the Tycoons have turned against us, there's no hope of salvaging the situation. Thus, we must clamp down on journalism, especially those we cannot control, till we are sufficiently prepared to deal with the consequences. Another day of barely tolerable work came to an end for Lee Chun, and he felt all the worse for it. The physical strain of repeatedly coming to work day after day seemed as if it was never going to heal completely, never going to completely leave him. The effect on his body would one day heal, but the stress it inflicted on his mind may never be alleviated. So wage of what got him through the day, that and the need to help support his family. The internal trouble he and his parents faced were so constant that it often felt like monitoring the greater strife of the outside world would only cause excessive anxiety. Yet the stress from the chaos of Yasuda's collapse had been unavoidable. It was too large a threat to their jobs to block out, but part of them each was still detached from the possibility of anything serious happening. Chun could not help bring himself to tell his parents the news once he got back. He went to bed knowing that breaking the news was inevitable. Despite his best wishes, the guilt remained the next morning. He took the courtesy of waiting till his younger siblings had left to go to school. The accusation that the adults had it easy bit at his patience. Working life was anything but. That was something they never taught in the classroom. Once they left, the weight of his mind became too much to bear. He had let them know the best he could. The last thing he wanted to do was multiply the fear through the way he delivered the news. Yet the words all too often failed to materialize as he would have liked them to. He could not mask the truth. Cutbacks would become a necessity. Life was about to become a lot more difficult until the job situation improved. The burden shift from the body to the mind. No, Ma, you don't get it. If you count everything being on fire and people running around and looting in plain sight as normal, I honestly don't know what to tell you anymore. Everything has gone to shit. 3 vans and 2 trucks are burning around my booth as I speak. There's been a jewelry store break-in on the street barely half an hour ago, but thankfully we've got it under control easy enough for me to sneak a call to you. I've had my share of hardships go through and nasty lawbreakers to handle, Ma, but those are no criminals. They're just people. Frantic, desperate people. And some of them would even charge at those Kenpai Thai thugs given the chance. Yes, Ma, we're exhausted, all right. As if it makes one difference in the world. Lengthened shifts or not, we thank heavens if some stray glass bottle doesn't hit us in the head 10 or 15 minutes into our job anyways. Chun, I did tell you about him earlier, yes? He nearly avoided a huge brick just this morning. He's been unusually silent ever since. When you would have shrugged it off every other day, it chokes the life out of you. Everything going on in the cities makes you wonder if it'll be a tomorrow at all. Ma, if I could take a break from dwindling wages, from the screams all around us, from having to chase down fellow countrymen every damn minute and return to your side, I would. But the truth is, nothing's within our control anymore. Whatever hell is breaking loose out there across the seas, it's coming for us all. Wherever we are. And I'm not sure I can just ask for leave and have another hapless colleague bear my burden. Look like there's another case. I'm sorry, Ma. Sorry for not being there when you might need me the most. Take care. Stuff indeed. It's corruption. Approval. I forgot about this, actually. I remember now, you know. I'm not going to touch that because I don't know what to do with it. Let's solicit some financial aid. This would give us some GDP growth, but I don't think we really need that. Corruption is a little too high for my liking, but what are we going to do? Bootlicker! It wasn't just the brick hurtling past his head that gave Hayashi Kosen a virtual concussion. There were also roars and jeers that followed. They kept rippling across his mind at even hours as he watched Ah Kwong scuttle back from the phone booth, red-faced and head lowered. Everything okay back there? It was all Lam Ha Kyun could muster up. Who was he to reprimand a colleague and companion for sending his regards home anyway? The worst hasn't reached there yet, so thankfully we're managing for another week or two. Ah Kyung brightened up before composing himself again. I couldn't thank you enough for looking out for me, Ah Kyun. Another black spot on my ledger, and they'll haul my penniless boot-looking ass back to the countryside. And then Pa-me will all be done for. He slammed his eyelids shut as despair once again crept on his face. Good heavens, this just isn't gonna end, is it? Lamb offered no reply, his gaze astray, his head still ringing from shock. Bootlickers, sure. True bootlickers would have exempted themselves from the pay cuts and doubled shift weeks ago, rather than helplessly patrol this burning wreckage of a street and worry about dinner every single day with overtime pay of insults and glowers thrown from every direction to boot. His mind wandered to his own family. If only they're surviving this hellscape just as fine. So, what's the emergency then? Ah Kwong's inquiry snapped Hayashi back to reality and slowly turned around and gestured towards an owner's storefront, where two bloody youngsters were tempting their way through the shattered glass. I'll call the others off. It just isn't worth it, do you think? I felt something wrong. So wrong. Doing the right thing. Well, shit kinda sucks right now, I'm not gonna lie. But hopefully we'll be able to, make it better. But only in time. Speaking of time, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to keep updated with uploads, hit the sub button for uploads weekdays as well as occasionally Saturdays. If you have any comments, feedback, concern, leave a comment section below. I read all comments I get. I appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you want to send a few bucks my way every month, I have Patreon. If you want to chat, play games, I have Discord. If you want to see me do this sort of stuff live, I have a Twitch. If you want to see me do non-game related stuff, I have a second channel. Always down in the description box below. That's really it for now, my friends. My name has been Mr. Doglet333. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye now.